Modern Horizons. It releases this summer, and with it come 50 reprints of legacy cards that are going straight into Modern and skipping Standard. There are so many possibilities for Merfolk, but here, in this video, I'll be going over the top 5 Modern Horizon reprints for Merfolk that I'd personally love to see. All right, coming in at number 5 is Sea Hunter. Can you imagine just searching your Merfolk deck for a Merfolk to put into play? And that pairs so nice with number 4, Empress Galena, a legendary Merfolk that can gain permanent control of a legendary card. And hey, number 3 is soaring in with Gaia's Skyfolk, flying Merfolk. They better keep that amazing Therese Nielsen art though. Number 2, I think everyone is calling for Razorfin Hunter. Why, with this reprint, finally, we can build Modern Goblins Merfolk Tribal, the ultimate tribe. And at number 1 is True Name Nemesis. What? What's that? Uh-oh, I'm kind of the only person who cares about Merfolk reprints in Modern Horizons. No one wants to hear that list. They just want me to logically go over the most likely reprints that we're going to see in Modern Horizons, just overall and not personal favorites, just the actual logical, likely to be reprinted cards. Okay. So it's not Merfolk, but presented here are going to be the top 5 legacy cards most likely to be reprinted in Modern Horizons. And though I'm not going over my personal Merfolk picks, I do want to start with an honorable mention, or rather, I want to state an obvious mention. Now, this isn't because I would like to see it reprinted, which I would, but I do believe it is a very logical and likely reprint for Horizons, and that's Oubliette. Now, this isn't part of the top 5 list, but I am calling it now. Horizons is where we finally see the Oubliette reprint. Why? Because Horizons is the perfect set for Oubliette. You can never reprint Oubliette in Standard, and including one of it in, say, a Commander precon is both not the right place for that reprint, as Commander players aren't exactly clamoring for it, but also as it would likely only be in one of the 4 decks. Price wouldn't go down too much, which is the main reason a reprint is needed. Enter Modern Horizons. Reprinting Oubliette into Modern is likely not impactful on the format, as the card is little more than a black Oblivion Ring, where counters stay on exiled creatures, etc., but its double black cost makes it prohibitive for non-mono black decks, which of course is where it is run in Pauper. But its likelihood for inclusion is that it comes with pre-built hype and fanfare, helping to sell the set and generate positive responses to it. And we also have heard from both Gavin Verhey and Mark Rosewater that not only is Oubliette being reprinted, but that a home is already in mind for it. So it's coming, and coming soon. I mean, unless dungeons are some kind of black theme in Kaldheim, or whatever the next Magic set is, probably Kaldheim, Horizons is my pick for most likely spot for Oubliette. Hey, here's hoping, but let's go beyond my personal desires and talk most likely legacy cards to see Modern reprints. Number 5 on that list is a card from a set that brought us so many goodies, including the origin of Fetchlands themselves. Now, this card is unique, and it has never yet been reprinted, and its name sounds like an awesome dance move. The Astral Slide. Astral Slide, despite not being Modern legal and never being reprinted, is still famous to this day due to the incredible fun it was during the time period of Standard and later extended formats. For 2 and a white, Astral Slide is an enchantment that reads, whenever a player cycles a card, you may exile target creature. If you do, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. step. This is a card I think is a shoo-in for Modern Horizons reprints into Modern for several factors. First is the nostalgia and presence that the card has. Hearing about it reprinting and coming to Modern carries with it a certain amount of built-in PR and excitement that'll come just from its announcement alone. This isn't a random card plucked from obscurity with marginal impact on Modern. This is Astral Slide, evocative for old players in regards to the glory days of Onslaught and creating a lot of set buzz. But second is the fact that Astral Slide is a relatively safe card to reprint. A cycling deck can possibly come out of it, especially if another included reprint are the Onslaught cycling lands, but this isn't a catch-all card that just goes in every white deck to juice it up like so many people's popular picks. If successful, a brand new deck and brand new style of deck will emerge. Modern Slide. Something that has actually been talked about for a long time already, as many people ask what happens if Astral Slide gets reprinted into Modern. Well, it adds deck diversity to the Modern meta, which is exactly what Horizons aims to do. With all that, I think Slide is absolutely going to be included. Now, coming in at number 4 is a card that would be more universally played, at least in sideboards, and could be seen not only as a way to make unfair decks more reasonable, but also coincidentally as a convenient popper reprint. I'm speaking, of course, of Chainer's Edict. Chainer's Edict is a sorcery for 1 and a black that has target player sacrifice a creature. This is known as an Edict effect. It also has flashback for 5 and 2 black, meaning you can cast it a second time at that cost from your graveyard. Why do I think this is a great contender for Modern Horizons? Well, creatures that you can't answer are never fun, and as effects such as Hexproof and Indestructible grow and grow, Edict effects are sorely needed. Now, neither Chainer's Edict nor the more traditional Diabolic Edict are legal in Modern, and we might see a reprint of either, but the reason I'm hoping for Chainer's is because trading that instant speed that Diabolic has for flashback to me is preferable to handle multiple drops of creatures, as well as providing both early and late game function. Now, Chainer's Edict was also reprinted at Common in the infamous Vintage Masters, and a great way to begin correcting the discrepancy between paper and online pauper lists might be to not only see this card show up in Modern Horizons to alleviate paper cost, something that Ultimate Masters ultimately did, but reprinting it in Horizons at Common also helps work towards a more coherent pauper list. Good for 2 formats and a solid pick on my prediction list. Alright, coming in at number 3 is a reprint that would take a popular tribal deck and juice it up considerably, and no, I'm not talking about True Name Nemesis. We're done with the merfolk jokes. I honestly am against True Name Nemesis. That card is awful. It's not fun. It's not a true merfolk. I hate it. I don't want to see it in Modern. No, I'm talking of a great tribe, the one known as Elves, and that reprint is Wirewood's Symbiote. For single green, Wirewood's Symbiote is an insect that loves elves almost as much as the fantasy community does. It reads, return an elf you control to its owner's hand, untap target creature. Activate this ability only once each turn. Elves has always been a strong deck in Modern, but not strong enough, as it has seldom been top tier over the years. While green-black variants had notable success with the addition of Shaman of the Pack, the deck in all its forms has fallen very low on the list as of late, and Wirewood's Symbiote might just bring it back up. Being able to return an elf to your hand in order to untap a target creature enables endless shenanigans with everything from Elvish Archdruid to Azuri himself. It still won't push elves out of control the way pauper staples like Quarion Ranger or Priest of Titania would, but it should be enough to secure elves a more prevalent seat at the Modern Horizon table. And I think that the player base's inherent love of elves as a staple fantasy tribe is enough to justify this particular reprint. I believe that WotC does actually say to themselves, yes, we want elves to actually be a type of deck because people like elves. And it currently really isn't that strong in Modern, so this might satiate those needs. But now we're getting into the real deal here, for number 2 brings us back into white for yet another endless attempt at controlling the broken cards and combos that Wizards keeps enabling. Made for Legacy and snuck into that format via Commander Precons, will Modern Horizons contain a Containment Priest reprint? I think this is one of the most likely cards we'll see, and here's why. While I have Containment Priest listed as the number 2 most likely reprint, it is actually my personal number 1 pick. Yes, even above Sea Hunter. Why? For 1 and a white, you get a 2/2 human cleric with flash that reads, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Hey, some protection requires a bit of finesse, am I right? And Containment Priest stops, or rather contains, everything from Arc-like Phoenix to Dredge to future potential broken combos. What's more, it isn't just an answer, but a full deck enabler, giving Death and Taxes a huge modern boost and making its likely list near identical to the Legacy counterpart. I just love having near similar lists between Modern and Legacy, as it more easily allows me to have a deck in both formats. Merfolk and Burn have always been fun in this regard over the years, but I love the idea of having one Death and Taxes build that with a few card swaps I can sit down at either the Legacy Night or Modern Night table and play some games of Magic. And so Containment Priest is one reprint I think is highly likely, if not the most likely, in Modern Horizons. But now we come to number 1, the number 1 most likely reprint in Modern Horizons, and you know where I'm going with this, or do you? Because there's actually 3 options that are coming up in answer to this slot. Modern Horizons, as everyone has already said, is going to have, has got to have, a blue counterspell, but which? Will it be Force of Will? Will it be Counterspell itself, or perhaps Daze? So here's the deal. Modern Horizons is absolutely going to have a big name blue counterspell to hype the set. But Wizards also does not want to degenerate the format into being too blue dominant, like Pauper and Legacy are often perceived as being. Now the debate here is just how impactful any of these 3 would be in Modern. If we start with Force of Will, although it is perceived as one of the most powerful Legacy legal cards in the game, keep in mind that Perception comes from its critical role in Legacy, as a mana-less way to stop decks from essentially going off and winning. Modern is built differently than Legacy, and the sudden legality of Force, while still a potent card to have handy, isn't suddenly going to become the same must-have that it is in Legacy. Now Daze is in a similar position, as it essentially is a free counter spell. Hey, this is one that would go in my beloved Modern Merfolk, but I don't think Daze is going in Horizons. Daze is very powerful and impactful, but it doesn't have the name recognition and community perception that Force and Counterspell both have. My belief on these reprints is that a wow factor is being sought out for many of them, but especially so in regards to which blue counterspell is going in the set. Daze gives us the impact of something like Force, but none of the positive PR, which is why my money is on the original true blue counterspell. Counterspell is everything Modern Horizons wants in a blue counter reprint. It is legendary among players, perceived as powerful, which of course it is, but ultimately not in a position to suddenly make blue an overwhelmingly dominant color in the format, pushing everything else out. Out of these 3 options, Counterspell is the safe one. You get community hype, packs sell, but the format itself is safe. It also saves Force of Will as a reprint option to juice up a future Modern Horizons set. Mark my words, Horizons will eventually reprint Force of Will, if for no other reason than guaranteed pack sales, but much like with the elusive masterpieces, they are likely saving it to juice up their future earnings when they need to most. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think is the number 1 most likely reprint to see in Modern Horizons, and is that different from your personal pick? Again, we are separating the idea of what you really personally want to see in Modern Horizons, let me know in the comments below, but also what you most likely, logically think will appear. And remember, you can help me out by remembering to like, subscribe, or just by leaving that comment. And I hope very much that Modern Horizons has a great new modern format on all of our Horizon. And this program was made possible thanks to a sponsorship from Card Kingdom, as well as the Patreon support of viewers such as you. So thank you.